Hello, welcome to another episode of Halloween Evil Lives Live. I'm your host, Michael. I'm joined with a very special guest tonight, Laura Ferguson, who's a starseed and also an author. Welcome to the show, Laura. It's nice to have you.
Thank you for having me on, Michael. I'm really excited about this.
Would you like to give the audience a little bit of your background of what you do as a starseed?
Yes, uh, I started writing conscious kid books in end of 2023, and that morphed into writing songs and singing with the help of a producer and musicians. And I'm currently screenwriting my book, The Entanglement, which is about Tiamat, Mars, and Atlantis destruction.
That's very awesome. And where can they find your book that you said you have a book that's out right now?
Yes, The Entanglement, Planet X and Mars is an audiobook only format at this point on Spotify, Apple Books, or Google Play.
And we'll leave the links down below. When you guys watch this, you'll be able to find the links to contact with Laura and also find out more information about her audiobook and her music work. And tonight, we're going to have our special guest here. What you call it? Channeling an alien life form? Is that the proper term?
Yeah, it's
So
actually
when we're
the higher self. And however the higher self wants to show as an archetype will do what's needed in that moment.
So how did you know you were able to have such a gift? When did you start that?
Probably like 2022 when I started meditating, and then I got a hypnosis session, and then I got another one, and it just came out, all these parallel past lives.
All right. And what do you think about the three-eye atlas comet? You think it was some form of UAP or UFO?
I don't know too much about that. We'd have to ask in channeling because me as Laura, I don't know about it.
Is there any experiences you want to share with the audience that you get from these non-human intelligences, aliens? Anything that you've learned so far about them and their plans for Earth itself?
Yes, anybody can channel because we're part of source just like they are. We're all reflections of each other, which is not just human to human. It's also in all parallel realities, which includes them as well. And so anybody can tap into them as long as they're in a hypnosis or, meditative theta brainwave state. And it's basically the point like right before you fall asleep. And for me, it tends to work better actually if I'm lying down, but I've actually trained myself to be able to do it, sitting up.
So is it kind of almost a form of remote viewing, almost?
Yeah, and it's actually very synchronistic that you asked that because I started out teaching remote viewing, and I'm a military veteran. No, I didn't do remote viewing in the military, but I felt like it was proper to teach a meditation, and then I would bust into channeling in it, you know, kind of not on purpose. And I just really love remote viewing because it's really all remote viewing.
Awesome, and thank you for your service. So recently, as you've seen, the government is slowly working towards revealing there is other life out there. How do you feel about this?
This disclosure uh, item or topic, whatever you want to call it, has actually been going on for decades, going back to, Bob Lazar in the 1980s. And people such as himself can actually pass lie detectors showing that they're not lying about, reverse alien technologies. But it really goes back to the 1940s with Roswell and with the Majestic 12 with President Eisenhower and that kind of thing.
Yeah, it seems to me like they've been kind of slowly preparing us for it. It's taken multiple decades to try to get the public to accept it. And I think,
normalize it.
you know, what's that?
To normalize it.
Yeah, because people have very strong belief structures, so they kind of had to wait till we evolved enough to accept something beyond the normal belief structure of humanity in general. There's many different belief systems, and we're coming to a point where we're becoming more accepting about things. And I think that's why it's becoming more of a norm to have these Senate hearings and stuff about recovered the vehicles that they've recovered in non-human biologicals, as they were sworn. These people were sworn in under testimony to state that stuff, so they can't lie, otherwise they go to prison. So yeah, it's very interesting to see that we've known about it for years, but they're trying to slowly reveal it to the public. And I think honestly we're probably ready, to accept this information.
I agree totally. And it's
So
actually the frequencies that are going higher and higher. But,
like that. I got a biofeedback there.
All right, is that better?
Yeah. Yeah, once you set frequencies, then it kicked in right there. All right. So when would you like to do some of your channeling right now and reach out to a non-human intelligence for us? Are you able to do that?
Yes, I'm ready. How it basically works is I can go about 30 minutes. I'm going to do just a very brief sound healing with the tuning fork to get me in that frequency. And then I just need a cue for you to pull me out, because I don't like to get out of that state, like something to the effect of, this is the last question. And then that way I can kind of prepare myself to get out of it.
So the key word is last question, and then you'll slowly come out of it.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Just tell me when you're ready, and we'll give it a go.
I'm ready.
All right. Hello, somebody else there?
The grays.
Hello, welcome to my show. I have what? Are you still there?
Yes.
All right. Are you eventually going to reveal yourself to humanity within the next couple years here?
We already have. We have been working with the militaries of your planet for decades. Do you mean to the
And
masses?
yeah, to humanity in general. Come on, live television, land your craft where the whole world can see.
Up front, we are going to apologize because we do not have the ability to feel emotion if we sound emotionless. That is not intentional. No longer have that ability.
That's understandable. So I see you guys use a different energy source to power your crafts. Is there any way that you can help humanity out with the energy crisis and gift them this energy source?
This is a very complicated complicated subject. There has been a mafia of sorts from the moguls, such as from OPSEC and organizations that have billionaires and trillionaires that have successfully stifled free energy. However, now is not forever. This is going to make a large turn going into your perceived 2030s to 2050s on this version of Gaia.
And why did you come to this planet? Are you guys out of resources? Do you need resources from us, genetic or water or other minerals?
Mostly from the hybrid program, which are soul agreements with other reflections of ourselves, such as yourself, because we can no longer reproduce. And when we removed the ability to have emotion, it also removed the ability to reproduce. The grays are just another version of humans in a parallel dimension reality. And our numbers and population decreased greatly. Therefore, the hybrid program is the main reason to keep the species going.
Are you trying to repair yourselves, basically, right? You need our genetic code to repair yourself, repair your physical body, basically.
The humans are the 2.0 version of us because we can just put in codes from our consciousness ships and be, as you would call, in the future or the past. And the humans are the 2.0 version of the grays and the sixth race. The fifth race are actually the half grays and half Homo sapiens. You are the higher version, if you want to call it that, or the 2.0, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Why don't you guys like the reptilian versions? I see that you guys don't get along, the reptilian alien version.
We do work with some factions of them. Not all of them are blanket malevolent or blanket benevolent. There are different versions of them, and not all of them come from Orion. And we do work with some of them as well as the mantis beings for DNA projects.
And the cattle mutilations, is that harvesting certain genetics you guys need as well? The cattle mutilations?
That is to harvest the blood. The beef cattle have a specific blood for some of our technologies that we have used, and now we are able to replicate it. Therefore, it's not happening as much, if at all.
And so you guys are from another dimension, or is that another planet?
Both, but we no longer have a physical planet anymore because it was destroyed as a result of the reduction of our population and self-destructions of what you would call wars in perceived time, linear time, thousands of years ago. Therefore, we live in what we call consciousness ships.
Were you the species that shut down the nuclear reactors, the nuclear missiles sites?
Some of them, yes. There's actually several versions of grays, tall grays, and even tall whites, and multiple factions of species that we are not even aware of that have stopped the nukes, even in a test, from going because it affects all dimensions and all perceived space and time, not in a neutral to neutral positive way. And Gaia humans would end up like how we destroyed our physical planet.
Are the tall grays like cousins, or are they genetic manipulation of your species?
Both versions.
And my last question here, is your species the species that crash landed in Roswell?
Sure, we are. One of them. There were multiple ships that were not spoken about.
All right. Thank you for speaking with us on my show. I appreciate that.
Okay, I'm back.
Are you back, Laura? Okay. That was
Yeah.
very interesting. They had some very great answers there. What do you feel when you enter that state? Is your conscious floating in somewhere else, basically?
It's almost like I'm like 20 to 30 feet away and I can hear them from far away. And then they just kind of answer how they want to, because it is actually my higher self in an archetype. But once they're just going off on a tangent, they just answer.
And are you one of the people that have been abducted or experimented on or have contact with them in some form?
Yes, they don't like that word abducted because we all have soul agreements to be part of the hybrid program, and our higher selves and our soul fractal has agreed to it because we are a version of them and they're a version of us, and in parallel dimensions. And if you're hearing this, you are more than likely a part of the hybrid program willingly, even if your physical self doesn't remember. Your higher self did agree to it, so it's not an abduction, it's an agreement, and that includes you.
Yes, I noticed that a lot of the people that have been, taken with them, um, they have offspring that was made by them, that hybrid, that's half another species and half human. And I'm guessing that's a way to save their race because they have to take some of our genetics in order to survive, you know?
Exactly. And they have several iterations of it, but the fifth race or the fifth wave are mostly half grays and half Homo sapien. And they do have even a step up from that with half Pleiadian and half grays. And then we're the sixth race after that, as a result of all this mixing.
I know it's a race against time for different countries to be able to reverse engineer this technology because everybody's afraid that whoever can solve it will be superior and take over the other countries. Do you think this is a real great fear among those alien species? You think they're just as afraid as the rest of humanity of something going wrong?
The grays specifically don't feel any emotion. So they choose not to feel fear because they don't have the ability to feel emotion. But the other ETs who still have that ability are not afraid because their technology just blows anything we have out of the water. And they will not allow us to blow each other up again in a nuclear destruction, because that did happen with Tiamat, which affected Mars, put our moon in place, and with Gaia Earth, in the Great Flood and all that destruction. I talk about that in my book, in Parallel Lives.
Would you like to give us a little brief summary of your book, of what our viewers can expect when they listen to the audio? Just a little rundown.
Yeah, I narrated it myself. That was important to me, with my perspective point. What the premises of the story is, you have two timelines going on. You have a blue Lyrian cat being, which is a humanoid with blue fur and a cat head on Mars, who's around blue avian birds that fly around some reptilians, which I call reptoids, and around some ant beings or insectoids. There's mantis insectoids there. And then on Atlantis, we have a priestess who's in Gaia Atlantis roughly 11,500 years ago. And the space warriors are there with actual soldiers. And these souls have a remembrance of space wars because they were all in the Orion Wars. such as, us starseeds.
Now, in my thought, I think the star seeds were planted here, right? Dropped the species was dropped off, and now eventually, who dropped them off will come back, right?
Which is another version of us. Yes. So we were seeded, but there were, like the cavemen or whatever you want to call them, Neanderthals, and then the
Mm-hmm.
DNA was mixed, and then the Homo sapien was born, and then that's really the modern day human, and that's really kind of the timeline that we can relate to, because Gaia did have the natural, caveman here that the ETs mixed with before. But with the bigger brains and the intelligence, we have the Homo sapien, and that's where we have the sixth race. So that is the missing link.
Because the Neanderthals were more ape-like, and then the non-human intelligence came down, evolved them more, and that eventually is what became Homo sapien, the humans, right? They just twitched some of the genetic code around for a more smarter being, basically.
Exactly. And like the brain growth is said to be something like 20% of growth in a very short time. And that's why. And they have the whole DNA bank, the Greys and some other races that work in the program. And so the DNA bank is there to preserve that unique DNA.
And also, this was also going on in Atlantis, right? That had advanced technology that came from the non-human intelligences, right? They helped develop it. And some of the species, cryptids, and some of the stuff we see today is experiments from that, correct? Some of them came from those experiments in Atlantis.
100%. And in Atlantis, in my book, which I'm actually screenwriting for movie adaptation now, there's blue avian bird beings there, which are the humanoids with the head, just like the Horus god in ancient Egypt. And there are reptilians, which I call reptoids there. And I didn't even go into inner earth beings, but those are there at the time. I didn't even go into Lemuria. I didn't go into that.
I know when I think of reptilians, I think of, was it David Icke? He wrote that book about like some of the royal family are reptilians or reptoids.
Like Queen
I
Elizabeth.
always found that interesting. They had that show V, which is basically like they could peel their skin off, and there'd be like a reptilian-looking creature underneath.
Yeah, and the reptilians really get a bad rap. In these realities that we're experiencing now, not all of them are quote unquote malevolent. And in the book, you'll see they do have a nuclear destruction that does affect, the water planet Tiamat and the souls that have incarnated in planet Maldek, and then Mars, in linear terms, and then in Gaia, our souls that were in the Orion Wars, Atlantis, Mars, planet Tiamat became the asteroid belt, and so that's why we're all connected to it.
Yeah, because the other trace of thought is life came from an asteroid that became a meteorite that hit Earth, and it had the building blocks of life on it, basically. That's one of the theories anyway, as we came from outside of our galaxy, some of the life forms and stuff on Earth. Does that sound about right to you?
Yes, that theory is called panspermia, and that really set up like water on the planet, because the consciousness literally breathed life into complex beings. However, the planet had to get ready and cool off and have water, and so the panspermia helped to cool it down and put all the beautiful H2O we have on our Earth.
Because there was water on Mars, but something must have shifted where all the water evaporated, or some of it froze. It must have lost its position around the sun, I'm guessing.
Yes. And so the large object that hit Mars, that even NASA admits to, I believe they say it's something like 1/3 of the size of Mars. That's because Tiamat had chunks that exploded and that hit it. And yes, it knocked out all the atmosphere. And NASA has admitted that water, and H2O and inside of Mars is still there, and that it could be terraformed in the future with, terraforming technologies, which, the ETs have.
And what planet was it that has moons that has water on it? Was it Neptune or Jupiter? One of them has moons where life could be on it. We just haven't been able to get there to check that it has actual water on it.
Saturn has Titan,
Okay.
and Jupiter does have moons that they think that has like methane gas. And, obviously the SSP knows a lot more than what they're letting on, because they do have SSP bases on Mars and on the moon.
And that's what I find interesting, is they know what it takes for a planet to sustain life, but they're not going to these places yet, or or haven't told us. I find that very interesting. So hopefully, if and they start revealing enough disclosure comes out, that they'll explain this is the data we have to show where these non-human intelligences come from. That's what I'm hoping on, that they'll do that. Try to give us a breakdown, some kind of evidence. I know they said the Vatican has had evidence for centuries of other existing life out in the galaxy, or different dimensions, as you'd say. So
That's
I
correct.
just wonder why. What's up?
That's correct. They have a vault under the Vatican where Da Vinci worked for a long time.
And it's just wondering why it's taking so long. I think everybody already understands that this could be real. It's just like, I think they said that I watched a new documentary called The Age of Disclosure. It's on Prime. I don't know if you checked it out yet, but they kind of run down why they didn't tell anybody yet. They were going to tell George W. Bush presidency had a big meeting about telling the public about it, but then there was like 80 cons of what could happen if they did. But that was back in 2000, 2001. We're now in 2025. So you hope that, it had Marco Rubio in this documentary, and he's trying to get disclosure out there. We'll see if it happens. He's part of these meetings as well. But do you think we're going to head that direction pretty quick here, coming up in 2026?
They keep telling me the 2030s. And it
2030,
really
okay.
depends on, 2030s, decade. They're giving me the whole decade. And it really depends on our frequency and the soul. If you want to experience that reality, you will. And if you keep your frequency high, doing your highest passion, staying in the moment, trying to stay positive, even during the quote unquote bad days, then you will have that experience, because we're all manifesting it as a collective and individual perspective. And then the people that don't want to experience that will go to a parallel version of Earth or cross over to the other side.
Yeah, they said something about it would be a negative impact on the economy. Now, I was trying to wonder why it would be a negative impact, unless it means no more oil or gas, or no more physical currency, or maybe it's something so big that we have to change everything about how we live our daily life. Because they said that was one of the reasons why they couldn't disclose anything. That's one of the negatives, was a negative impact on the economy. I thought that was interesting.
It does have potential for that. I don't know if you've seen Unacknowledged in the documentaries by Dr. Stephen Greer. He talks about why it's being withheld for so many decades. And he has a lot of witness testimonies and evidence showing otherwise, and that it's mostly because of the free energy, because the enterprise of the petrodollar and everything connected to that is trillions of dollars. And so these families, as you say, the cabal who are in charge, which we won't name, but the trillionaires
Yeah.
don't want this. And then on the religious perspective, I'm a retired financial investigator. It does have a quality that might impact the financial markets. And so I think that's why they're bringing that up economically. But really the big one, the big elephant in the room is revealing the free energy because it exists.
Yeah, because wasn't Tesla, he's the one that discovered free energy, right? Or one of the few that knew about it, and they shut him up pretty quick. Have you heard that story? How he discovered there's
Yeah.
electricities all around us?
Yeah, he was actually plugging light bulbs in the ground in Colorado Springs with his tower, and they shut down that project. But he was going like almost a mile out or more, and the light bulbs wirelessly in the ground were turning on.
Yeah, Nicholas Tesla, he created the Tesla coil, but he discovered that one shouldn't really be paying for electricity because it's a natural resource. Like we shouldn't probably be paying for water to think about it.
Or air, which is
Air,
basically
yeah, air quality.
yeah. I say that when they charge for Wi-Fi, they're charging for air because energy is free and found, and it's what animates us and connects, all the ether.
Yeah, because I know the elites are old world money, so they want to keep paper currency. They want to keep oil money or blood money, as they'd say, because that's what keeps their family going. And if things became free, it's really bad for them. So I'm guessing that's why everything's been piped down.
Yeah, I believe that's 80% of it or more, based on Stephen Greer speaking about this, and he's a retired ER doctor and has had death threats on his life, and known some people that have passed away mysteriously to where it looked like like a sudden suicide, and they didn't have mental things going on to show that, or any evidence to show that. And I've seen a few documentaries on free energy devices, and the people suddenly pass away or they're missing and they don't find their body. And so, this oil cabal and these families have actually been pretty successful. However, now is not forever, and they're not going to be successful much longer. In our lifetimes, we should see free energy taking some leaps and bounds.
Yeah, I mean that would be great if that can happen. I don't know. I think they said with AI and everything, we might, in the next 20 years, start becoming a universal income type country where you won't get a lot, but they give you like $1,000 check a month, then you still work part-time somewhere just to get by. And I think that's maybe with disclosure, it's going to evolve everything, how you think about money, how you think about your lifestyle. And I think that's maybe they're waiting for, to find a universal income, structure.
Yeah, I think we're headed that way as well. Like I heard the U.S. Mint stopped making pennies, but I'm still seeing pennies in circulation. So I don't even know if that's true. Do you?
They stopped printing it this year, but there's still about 3 or 4 years worth of pennies still going around. So it's probably going to take a long time before the penny's gone. But places like Quick Trip have already eliminated the use for pennies. They just nickel up the price. So it's 5 cents more for stuff. So you won't have to use a penny anymore. Some of my good people I know that practice hoodoo and voodoo, they like to use pennies because pennies are good luck and copper's good for you. So they're trying to save as many as they can if the penny does go extinct within the next decade.
Yeah, that's smart, especially if it's the
So
older
yeah,
penny.
yeah. With the cryptocurrency, I don't really believe in it very much. You know what I mean? Like, it's nothing like having good physical cash in your wallet, or you know what I mean? Like, it seems kind of risky. What's your opinion on that? If everything goes to crypto or digital currency?
The day that we got off the gold standard under Richard Nixon is actually when the dollar was backed by nothing other than its word. And then we started going into plastic, a lot more credit cards, debit cards, and we were growing up in the 80s and 90s. You had the carbon paper, where it took 2 or 3 days for a credit card transaction to go through. So it was already going digital since the dollar was backed by nothing. And basically, the gold standard is gone because you can't go to the bank anymore and get a piece of gold or a fleck of gold for however much money. And so that's really when it started.
Couldn't people go maybe 80s and the 70s go and get like a little block of gold? Was it like for $100 they'd give you like a little block of gold? I think that's something back in the day that banks could do.
You could actually buy gold, from a gold dealer, but not in the U.S., not under the banks. And after we got off the gold standard, you could not trade at that point anymore and say, here's $1,000 in cash, give me $1,000 worth of gold at the bank. But you are welcome to go to a gold dealer or a silver dealer, metals dealer, and do that. And the scary part is that the US dollar has been very volatile and is really just backed by nothing because the US government can't give you gold in the place of it since they did that.
Yeah, it's basically a bank note or whatever they call it. It also has a lot of hidden meanings on it. If you ever look at the dollar, it has a little owl on there and all these different occult stylings on it. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it does. The free Masonic symbols and the all-seeing eye and the pyramid and the obelisk and that. You're right about that.
Yeah, and I think some of these secret societies obviously already know that there's other intelligences out there, and that's something, the secret they probably guard. They go to, was it Bohemian Grove, and they do all that stuff out there, and they got people that are considered their enemies meeting. Some of the pictures you see come out of there. So it's all ruled by, let's say, what they call a shadow government or elite government that makes things happen.
There is a faction of that. However, I still believe that the trillionaires and billionaires are pulling the puppet strings because they lobby and give the money to the lawmakers. And as long as we're allowed to get political donations, there's going to be corruption.
The lobbyist, yeah, because if you win the election, they're the ones that help you, but now you got to scratch their back. Otherwise, you're out. They'll find a way to get rid of you. I notice that happens a lot. I noticed that, like, if someone starts speaking good for the people or for the public, and they're like, oh, here's, some kind of bad story to ruin their reputation. Or like, for instance, the people that came forward to testify on UAP and the non-human intelligences, then some article comes out, it's like, oh, this guy was, had a mental breakdown. You have to question his credibility. And it's like they do this, try to ruin people's reputations so they wouldn't go and testify anymore. It seems to be a common practice,
Or paying them off, like they did the Bernie Sanders or the defaming campaign, like you're saying, smear campaign.
And it's a shame because you shouldn't be afraid. If you're given permission from Congress or Senate to come forward, you shouldn't be afraid to do it. They should offer you some kind of immunity, I would think,
You would think. In the future, there's not going to be a left and a right. There's going to be one world government.
Well, it's kind of like a sock puppet. Someone's controlling, because there really is. Okay, there really is no Republican or Democrat. It's whatever the main ruling class wants you. I want a war. I want you to win. But it's the same coin or whatever. Like you said, it's the same people.
Yep. those 1,000 people of trillionaires, family of 1,000 or whatever it is, 500 billionaires and a few hundred trillionaires. It's that's really the top of the pyramid that David Icke speaks about a lot. And I love David Icke, by the way, too.
And what was the name of they meet out in the Swedish Alps? What's the name of you never heard that? There's like a brotherhood. They meet in the Swedish Alps, and they decide every year who's going to win the presidency.
I forget what he calls.
I forget. Vanderbilt group.
It might be them.
Something.
But yeah.
Yeah, like
it's a group that he's referring to, right, David Icke? He says their headquarters are in Davos, Switzerland.
Yeah, they meet every year because that's where Barack Obama had to go, Hillary Clinton had to go, Donald Trump had to go, and they decide they're the ones. I mean, the election's kind of a fake thing, but they're the ones that actually decide who's gonna. Because the United States, the most powerful person in the free world is the president, so they have to decide. You know what I mean? Who's going to win that election? So it's picked. That's what I heard. That's a rumor, anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And have you ever seen The Men Who Built America on History Channel?
I haven't seen that one, but I've seen similar documentaries, though.
Yeah, that's a really good one. It's like a little mini series. They talk about J.P. Morgan getting together with Carnegie and Rockefeller. They're like, we want to buy a president that's for big business. So they basically lobby and give a bunch of money to President McKinley. And then the joke was on them because President McKinley got shot. And then Teddy Roosevelt came in thereafter into the antitrust and, broke up a bunch of their, businesses. But it was kind of a joke because Rockefeller had, for example, Exxon and Mobil was one of his businesses together. And they got broke up into Exxon and then Mobil separately. And he made even more money that way.
So I think it's all connected, like these companies that have been merging lately. Now you're going to have your Netflix and your Warner Brothers or Paramount's trying to overtake that with some Saudi money. And I think this is all some kind of master plan to obviously control the media, it seems like, what you're watching.
That's true. And it said that it's owned by BlackRock, which are owned by, like families like the Rothschilds and things like that invest in it, the Bill Gates, all the usual suspects behind the scenes, which a lot of them don't show themselves and are, faceless, investment names.
And BlackRock was where the supposedly attempted assassination of President Trump kid was from or worked for or something like that, or he's in a commercial for it. And I found that interesting too. Where like there's a lot of connections here.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of distraction that they're doing. And like this assassination attempt on Trump and there's a lot of those things. The UFO hearings with Congress and Senate, which they're of course behind closed doors, they're going to really have all the good stuff come out, filed under seal and all that. So, a lot of it is just a dog and pony show of distraction. So the people are fighting over race and religion and things that don't really exist because we're all human.
Yeah, I noticed that when something bad comes out, another bigger bad thing will come out and overshadow it, a shooting or so it's kind of like they're pulling the strings of what they want to do. And when they start talking about the Epstein list, all of a sudden, well, now we're going to talk about aliens. Did you notice that? Like, all of a sudden, they're like, oh, now we're going to talk to you about some UAP stuff. They're trying to, they don't want you to think about that list. So it's kind of like, we'll give you something, we'll release these files, you know what I mean, on alien technology.
Don't look here. Look over here, like a dog with a treat.
So I think if that is the reason why they're coming close to disclosure, that could be part of the reason is it's something that's globally changing, and then they don't have to talk about the other bad stuff anymore. You know what I mean?
That's true.
All right. And is there anything you want to talk about your music for a little bit here? Is it something that appeals to the non-human intelligence as well as humans? Energy?
Definitely, because they have their own versions of music and frequencies, and everything is made of frequencies, colors, sound, and it's all healing energy. My music specifically, I do bilingual Spanish and English music and different genres, and it's something that I've always loved. I just wasn't encouraged to do it performing arts. I think because my dad is from Mexico and I grew up in a Hispanic household. As a girl, I wasn't really encouraged to do that. But, I put my two loves together from writing books to writing songs and then singing. And there you go.
That's very cool. And I know down in Mexico and South America, they have nonstop UFO sightings and stuff like that. They seem to get a lot of visitors down there.
They do. And, there's a lot of indigenous people still down there. And a lot of them are very, more open minded than Americans about that.
Yeah, because some of their the Mayan temples and that some of the paintings or sketches inside show beams coming down from the sky. So they've been visited for thousands of years by non-human intelligences.
That's true. And I channel a Mayan collective called Baktun because I'm about a third Mesoamerican, and they come through when they want to, though. I can't normally just summon them,
It's something with like New Mexico because of the nuclear testing. They said that's why it's such a hot spot for alien visitation. Something with the radiation. That's what I heard. Have you ever heard anything about that? About the nuclear testing they
New
did down there?
Mexico.
Yeah,
Yeah,
New Mexico.
desert, Dulce, New Mexico, Arizona, and the Hopi and the Navajo Nation are there. Navajo's the third spoken language in Arizona, and that is a hotbed, but also not just because of the desert energy. It's a ley line on the earth, just like Mount Shasta is, the Grand Canyon. And underneath the Grand Canyon, the inner earth beings that love that area are the ant insectoids. And the ant insectoids are the ones who have helped, the Hopi and the Shoshone, and even going down to, Mayans and other tribes that traveled south and helped them during times of destruction, which is why you see on Ancient Aliens, the cave drawings with, like the ant, antenna going up.
They have Skinwalker Ranch, which borders Utah, New Mexico, and Arizona. They get a lot of UAP, UFO phenomenon. Something with that mountain. There's some kind of alien base in there, or it's an energy producer portal.
I believe
Have
it's
you heard
both.
about that?
Yeah,
And
I think it's
Devil's Tower too, Wyoming is supposed to be something like that, a hot UFO spot as well. They used that in that one Steven Spielberg movie, Devil's Tower.
Yeah, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So I wish there was a way that they could get inside these mountains and really see if there's a, alien base of some sort there. That's what I always wonder when I watch the shows. I'm like, is there any way they could sneak in there? But I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what's going on inside there.
You can if you have the muon technology or ground penetrating radar, and you have the income or the money to actually rent or buy the MUON technology or the ground penetrating radar. And I would like to ask and channel about what's under the Pyramid of Giza as well, because there's an alien base under there. And I don't know if it's active or not. I would have to get into a long channeling about that one.
Isn't it a battery? That's what I was told. It's an ancient battery that the aliens or non-human intelligence has left there to charge their ship. They'd fly down, charge up, and kind of like a Tesla. That's what I heard anyway. That's like some kind of battery.
That was one of the functions, like a highway, like you're saying, the UFO highway. But it was also a site where they could use a portal and literally travel, train others how to do that, and a lot more.
Yeah, it's interesting how some of this technology was advanced in ancient time, and then maybe some disaster came and wiped it out, and now we're rediscovering technology in our time. It's interesting how that happens. That's exactly what happened to Atlantis, right? They were a very advanced civilization.
Yes, roughly 11,500 years ago, and that's why I spoke about the destruction in my book, because a lot of us starseed souls were there, and we'll have a remembrance and a familiarity with that, and connection. And there was a lot of technology, and it's as if the humans, Homo sapiens, went into a dark age after that for a very long time because of not having temporary access to that anymore. And now we're regaining it because we are raising our frequencies higher and higher and higher. And we're going to have access to that again, even if it's from within and us reinventing it.
Yeah, I think that's why we're so drawn to the water, because that's where we got our answers, was from Atlantis. I think that's one of the theories. Large bodies of waters. They're seeing a lot of submerged UAPs and flying in, flying all the water. It could be some of that technology coming back.
That's right. They're in the water too. You got to remember, we're in a water planet that is what, 2/3 water, and not what you see is not what you get always. And they have the technology to go in there as well, to go in the inner earth with the inner earth beings, other dimensions, the other timelines that we perceive as other times. And there's all kinds of activity that are under the surface and underground. It's said that there is a physical train that the elites use and can travel from Pyramid of Giza to Rome very quickly.
It's more advanced bullet train, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. All these theories they have about that stuff and where we're going with technology. Um, you know, Time travel, which they have some form of it. It's not too advanced yet, but they said that some Harvard professor claimed that the government has some form of time travel, but it's not too fancy yet. They can do some stuff, but not too much yet. Have you heard of that as well?
Yeah, specifically with the secret space program, using jump portals to go to Mars and the moon. But it's not really more advanced than that. Like, they can't just go to Saturn or the Orion star constellation. It's there. It's kind of seems like their pathways are more just to like Mars and moon at this point, or inner Earth.
And I think that was a branch of the Project Stargate program for remote viewing. They're able to figure out the technology to do that, right? From Project Stargate.
Yeah, Project Stargate, didn't they even make it into a show as well because of that?
Yeah, they made a show called Stargate, but it was as based off, was it in the 70s, late 70s? They started doing the remote viewing. They started to help out during war and stuff like that, and then that's when they started remote viewing on Alien.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I think that with the Roswell crashes and even prior, since they were telepathically communicating with beings that sometimes don't have the ability to use a mouth to speak, that's where a lot of that came from. And you're right. And so it's really more just tapping into our inner telepathy, which anyone can do as long as you keep your frequency high enough.
I think it was Yuri Geller, Israeli psychic medium, illusionist magician that they were using. I think he had a video that showed he was at the CIA headquarters, and they were trying to get him to remote view things as well. He was part of Project Stargate.
Yes, they definitely have formal training programs for it, meaning the projects and military. And most of the time it's said that they're like over 90% accurate, and they're not given any country or any name of an object. And they have methods which I'm not privy to, at least on this level. Maybe my higher self is, where they can actually make a drawing by hand and be over 90% accurate, and then have satellites go find that object, and the ground penetrating radar and ocean radar, find these objects or people.
Yeah, and I think that's our brains have evolved over time. And I think, like you said, everybody has the gift. It's just getting up to that frequency to start to use it. And I think that's what with diet and meditation, right? That's part of it.
Exactly. Whole health, drinking water, staying hydrated, garbage in, garbage out. So if you watch a bunch of junk or listen to a bunch of negative, videos and stuff like that, you're putting that in your energetic field, especially right before you go to sleep, because that's where most of your programming is, right before you go to sleep.
Wasn't it like blue light therapy, right? Is very good for you.
They say blue light and red light. Honestly, I've just used it for beauty purposes, so I don't really know other than that.
So I know there's one you're supposed to bathe yourself in before you go to bed. I think it's blue light therapy. You can get blue light LED or blue light bulb. It's supposed to put you in the right state to get deep sleep. And I think the red light is for engagement, for energy. Blue light calms you down. That's what I heard anyway.
Yes, there are benefits to that. More importantly, though, if you say mantras or listen in your earbuds, such as like the Jose Silva method, what you want, and you say it over and over as you're falling asleep, or you're just listening to, an audio of it, and then you're visualizing it, then that really, really helps cement that, to get you to that reality. Because your higher self can tell you all day, do this, and you feel good doing it. But if you don't take action on it, it's not going to manifest. So it's really important to actually take an action on what you want to manifest. It's like fake it till you make it.
And I heard that they were using these skilled psychics to actually bring a craft down. I saw that on one of the documentaries. That the government was hiring psychics to contact the craft, and then it would fly down. Have you heard of that before? A psychic could reach out and bring them down.
I have heard of that. And actually, I had an ad of Dr. Stephen Greer called CE5 Contact, or CE5, I believe. And basically, they get together kind of in the middle of nowhere, like Contact in the desert or something. And there's a strength in numbers because, most of them, if not all of them, there are starseeds. And there's another version of them, quote unquote, in the sky. And they all get in a meditative state. And then some really weird stuff happen, and then they show it on camera, like here's this light or here's this being like projecting next to this person. And, they've gotten some really good events with that because there is a strength in numbers coming together because we are all connected as collective as well.
And in the end here, is there anything else you want to share with the audience about your experience with the aliens and what they can expect from you? Any more projects coming up here, or anywhere they can meet you, any events you're going to attend, if they would, have you sign a copy of any of your items?
I don't have any physical events I'm going to go to anytime soon, but I'm located in northern Florida, not far from Panama City Beach area. If anyone's in Panama City Beach or going to an event and, would like to do a meetup or something, let me know, because I think that would be cool to do a meditation event on the beach, which I haven't done yet because I'm about 60 miles away inland. As far as my book, the big focus is screenwriting it for a movie and kind of just going from there. And then after the first one is done, I'm going to write the Orion Wars #2 book in the series, which I'm going to let my higher self do. So I don't really know how it's going to come out, but I just write what my higher self tells me to write.
And have you been contacted from any streaming services yet, like Tubi or Netflix or Roku? Anybody wanting to make it into a documentary or movie?
Not yet, because I'm still writing it. I'm writing it with a screenwriter who's actually worked on BET TV and some other networks. But he told me I need more pages. He said it's good, but you only have 50 out of 80 pages. So I have a little bit more to go before I can start doing, the hard pitching, which I hope to be doing here in the next few months.
Oh, that's very awesome. I'm so happy to have you on this evening, Laura. Thanks for coming on and channeling for us and giving us more information about your projects and such. I hope you have a wonderful evening.
You too, Michael. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Have a great evening.